Thank you everyone for coming out today to our February Lunch and Learn event. Just a few odds and ends to go before we get started with the presentation today. First of all, I'd like to thank our sponsors, our chapter sponsors. At a silver level, we have Ecological Energy Systems, Green Spaces, Partners Development, and Train. And at a bronze level, we have Benefield Rickman Design and Build Company, Blaine Construction, Brewer Ingram Fuller Architects, Elizabeth Easton Architecture, Facility System Consultants, Hickory Construction, Johnson Gallion Construction Incorporated, Knoxville Community Development Corporation, Marvin Concepts, McCarty Holstaff and McCarty Architects, the O'Hanlon Group, Oak Ridge Associated Universities, S&M Sales and Marketing Consultants, and Shaw Contract Group. We have some upcoming chapter events. Coming up in March, on the 21st, our Lunch and Learn for March is going to be Ted Shelton, who is an FAIA lead AP. He's going to be talking about advanced principles of sustainable urban design and the benefits of dense, low-energy development. That's going to be here at the Foundry March 21st. March 26th and 27th, we're working with East Tennessee Quality Growth on a speaker, Ed McMahon. He's going to be presenting the secrets of successful communities. And then on April 18th, we have Preparing for Net Zero Energy Tomorrow. It's going to discuss methodologies for the design and validation of high-performance buildings, and that's also going to be here at the Foundry. If you have any questions about the events, please visit our website at etnusgbc.org. And if you are not a member of our chapter yet, you can also sign up by using a button on the website. And for those of you who did not notice, our membership admission to events, which includes lunch, is now $5. And if you're not a member, it's $20. So it behooves you to become a member. It's really good, cheap admission, and we have really high quality events. And that segues nicely into our speaker for today. It is my pleasure to introduce Will Brodnax. That's correct?
That's cool.
How do you say
Brodnax?
Brodnax, thanks.
There's no way.
Appreciate it. So we have with us today Will Brodnax. He's the Director of Sustainability at Energy Ace, and he heads up their team sustainability consulting group. He has personally managed more than 40 sustainably built projects throughout the U.S. Will received a Bachelor's of Landscape Architecture from the University of Georgia and a Master's of Urban Planning and Real Estate Development from the University of Michigan. He is an educator of green building, routinely presenting to associations and college classes on the latest trends in green building, and he is a part of USGBC Atlanta Branch Leadership Group. So please help me in welcoming Will today.
Do I need to use the mic or can everyone hear me? Is that okay? Is that good? Okay. Sarah rewrote, our Director of Marketing, rewrote my bio, so actually it sounds pretty good. I like it. Something you won't get from that bio is I'm actually quasi from Tennessee. I lived around the Nashville area when I was in high school and everything, so I promise I know a little bit about Tennessee, not a whole lot. But to tell you a little bit about Energy Ace before we dive in, Energy Ace is a full-service sustainability firm. What we do is we do everything that's kind of outside the regular scope of work of a project team. So energy modeling, building commissioning, lead administration, facilitation, all sorts of stuff like that. That's what we do. So we're kind of a one-stop shop. We are owned by American companies, and they're a big E, little a firm out of Colorado. They do mainly federal work. They actually have an office over at Oak Ridge. It's like they're not even allowed to have telephones there, so I'm really not clear what they do, but it's something to do with nuclear stuff. I don't even know who works there, but it's apparently a pretty cool office. So that's kind of the grand picture about this. So today we're going to talk about LEED version 4. It is an AIA presentation. James said that there was a sign-in sheet over there, so please make sure you sign in. You can get your AIA credits, you can self-report for PE credits, and you can also self-report this for USGBC credits for your LEED continuing education. Copyright materials, please don't go sell this to anyone. And then, okay, so our learning objectives for today. So we're going to talk about LEED, kind of going from a really 30,000 foot view and then get more and more granular and get more and more detailed as we go through the presentation. If you just get an idea of y'all's expertise level or sort of what y'all do, how many architects are out there today? Okay, engineers, we have contractors, all right, any building owners or project managers, university type folk. Okay, we got a few then. Okay, so I'm going to try not to get too into the weeds. How many lead APs are out there today? How many many LEED APs with the designation? Okay, so last one I promise. How many people have actively worked on a LEED project? And what I mean by that is actually filled out some of the LEED paperwork. All right, that's a good number. Okay, so y'all get a lot out of this today. So who has heard of LEED version 4? Everyone's heard of it, right? Okay, everyone knows it's coming. Does everyone know that it is active right now? So you can actually go out and do a LEED version project. They premiered it at Greenbuild this year. You can go to their new website. It's called, so there was the old website that was like leedonline.usgbc.org, and then there was leedonline.com, and now it is usgbc.org/leedonline. So if you've ever worked on a multiple buildings project or a campus project, it's that website. So they had a new website, they've been vetting it for years. It's a little bit better than the old one, but it's out there. You can do it now, you can go register a project. So if y'all are interested in kind of being in the leading edge of getting into the new LEED stuff, it's out there to be able to do it. So what were they really trying to do with LEED version 4? I've asked myself that many a sleepless night. What were they thinking? No. It's good stuff. The bottom line, better buildings. So the USGBC is really trying to take a big step forward. And remember that we are all a part of the USGBC. So we all basically voted on all of this ourselves. We got a chance to comment on everything. So I've heard a lot of groaning. I've been doing a presentation for this basically every week since January. So I've heard a lot of different stuff. So hopefully y'all have some new questions for me today. But people are really worried about this. How many people out there are worried about LEED version 4? No one's really should be because they know the camera's rolling, right? Okay, so in LEED version 4, these three kind of categories at the top here. The increased technical rigor, they've taken this big step. They've moved from ASHRAE 2007 to ASHRAE 2010. It doesn't sound big, but it's incrementally larger than ASHRAE 2004 to 2007. So getting more difficult with all the credits. The water requirements are more rigorous, all that stuff. They revised some of the credit categories and weightings to keep us all on our toes so we're not getting lazy with our paperwork. They've shifted some things around, but they have changed the way some of the credits work. Changes to prerequisites and credit requirements. So a lot of the credits that you were familiar with before, a lot of the easy credits, it was just kind of like you show up on the site and get it, they changed those a little bit. So now you really got to work for it. The focus on integrated design, this is coming up is a really, really big theme with LEED version 4. Though there's only one little dangling credit out there that you can get points for doing integrated design, everything that I go through today, you'll start to hear that the sooner you get started with it and the sooner you get thinking about it, the better for your project. So in LEED version 3, so long as you haven't started construction or so long as you haven't put the project out to bid, we could probably figure out a way to get you LEED certified because there are certain things that everybody does. If you already had green in mind, you know, kind of push you over the edge. In LEED version 4, forget about it. You've got to get started early. You've got to get rolling early. The life cycle approach to materials are all mismatched and different, but they've really taken a step forward in thinking about how we put our buildings together and what we're putting in our buildings. And then the increased emphasis on measurement and performance. So there's more about what's happening in the building. So we're going to do all this cool stuff, we're going to put on all these awesome energy saving things, but what happens once the building gets started? Old versions of LEED and the new construction and everything kind of stops right once you're done. There's no LEED police, there's no double checking, it's just like you built your building, hurrah, put your plaque up, you know, put your certificate on your refrigerator, stuff like that. Everyone's happy. Now they want you to really think about what's happening as the building moves forward. Okay, so are there any kind of general questions, just really big, these are the questions you know, like that you were like, why did they change to LEED version 4? Just any general things? Okay, lunch must have been good. All right. Okay, so existing and new market sectors. So within the USGBC, y'all are probably familiar with some of these terms, BD&C, ID&C, existing buildings, operation and maintenance, neighborhood design and homes. So these are kind of the big categories. This is where you can get your specialty. Things that you see here in the black are the existing sectors that you can get certified in. So commercial interiors and retail under ID&C. So they've expanded to add a bunch of new stuff. Warehouses and distribution centers and data center, warehouses, distribution, and then data centers are probably the two biggest new categories that I'm really glad to see show up here. Because if you've ever tried to do LEED for a warehouse, it just really doesn't fit very well. When you're trying to throw bike racks in for an industrial warehouse that's in the middle of nowhere, no one's going to ride their bike. It's crazy. So they've added these new things, good stuff. Has anyone here ever looked at neighborhood development or worked on a neighborhood development project? This guy here. So neighborhood development is particularly tricky because you actually have to be building like 8 blocks of a neighborhood in order to get it done. So they've added in a neighborhood development plan. So this is sort of, if you're looking at your master plan for, say, a campus or a city or a large organization, you can actually get your plan certified as a LEED certified plan, and then as you go forward, you can get neighborhoods certified within it. So a little different. And then they also bridge the gap between homes and the 4-story requirement for new construction. So that they put in the mid-rise homes. It's under homes, it's not under new construction. So smaller, dorm type projects or apartment complexes, things like that. There's a nice home for them now in LEED. So into the credit categories. So what did they really change? So over here on the left, you will see a theme in the presentation today that you will see a lot of LEED version 3 stuff on the left, and all the LEED version 4 stuff is on the right. So on the left here, sustainable sites, water efficiency, you guys know all these categories as they exist now. The only real change is they took sustainable sites and they split it up into location and transportation and sustainable sites. So all that really is they took the credits that have to deal with where your project is and put them in location and transportation. So your sort of big picture things like transportation, your, like what are the main kind of features of your site, and then sustainable sites is the functional, or the function of your site. So storm water, bicycles, stuff like that falls under sustainable sites. So all in all, everything is pretty much the same. So, I'm stepping back, gotta give you room. So sorry, I don't know if y'all can see this in the back. I gotta figure out a way to make these numbers bigger, I guess. So they took all the credits. The only real major changes here is you see the 16 points and 10 points for location and transportation and sustainable sites and LEED version 4. So they just kind of split it up. They moved 1 point into water efficiency, moved a couple points out of energy and atmosphere. They subtracted another point from materials and resources, added a point to indoor environmental quality, which is my favorite category. So I was like, all right, more environmental quality. And then they added in the integrated process. So integrated process doesn't actually get its own category, it just kind of like floats out there all on its own stuff. Okay, so I had mentioned better buildings. What do I mean when I say better buildings? So the USGBC has put some stuff out there about how much harder LEED is going to be. The rating structure is exactly the same as it was before. So if you were doing LEED when they were doing LEED version 2, and then you moved into version 3, they mixed and matched all the numbers, no one knew who was doing what for a little while. They left the structure exactly the same. So certified, 40, the precious metals are all still the same, going up all the way to platinum. So it's familiar, but it's far more stringent. So this chart you're looking at here, I didn't make this up, I promise. This was released by the USGBC about how much harder it's supposed to be going from LEED version 3 to version 4. So what you're looking at is on the bottom here, like your vertical axis here, your y-axis, is that right? I always get it mixed up, I'm sorry. Y-axis and x-axis, can anyone verify that? Yeah, okay, all right, I got some nods. I know y'all, some of y'all are awake at least. All right, so y-axis here, you've got how good your building is, how good it's performing environmentally. So down here on the bottom, you've got just your standard code building. And you should note that the code is kind of tailing up also. So actually, code is getting more stringent. And then up here, so looking in LEED version 3, you got your certified getting better and better and better. And up here around the top of platinum is where they kind of estimate net zero buildings might be falling right now. So if you're trying to do net zero, you might be some here, like if you got 105 points on your LEED project, you'd be somewhere up here. And then restorative, for those of y'all that are familiar with the Living Building Challenge, this is what the Living Building Challenge is all about. That your building actually restores the environment around it. So water that enters your site actually leaves cleaner than when it got there. Air leaves cleaner than when it got to your site. So your site produces energy as opposed to using energy. So that's the idea of restorative. And it's this kind of lofty category all onto its own. And it'll probably never, code, at least in my lifetime, code will probably never get there, anything like that. So LEED version 4, what you're looking at here, is this incremental step. So they said, here's LEED version 3, we're going up here. So if you had a silver or certified project in LEED version 3, the USGBC says, probably not going to get certified in LEED version 4. We're like, we're taking this to the whole next level. LEED version 4 goes to 11. Like, we're not messing around anymore. But people have been very, very nervous. So I know there's probably some people breaking out in cold sweats right now. Or at least, I guess that means you're paying attention if you're out there. But when LEED first came around, there was basically nothing. Like, buildings were, way down here, and then all of a sudden LEED said you had to come up to this level in order to get a LEED building. So they're trying to differentiate yet again. They're trying to make it really special to be a LEED project. Because back 4 years ago, if you said we have a LEED building, people would sit up and take notice. Now you say, yeah, we got a LEED certified building. It's like, okay, like, you did some cool stuff, but not necessarily really going above and beyond. And now they want it to be going above and beyond again. Does that make sense? Any questions about that? Okay. All right, so to show you though, this slide here is very scary. This slide has literally kept me up at night. So I was keeping me up at night, and I'm a nerd, so I do a lot of like little statistical studies and stuff. And I sat down and I was like, okay, well, if I was taking one of my LEED projects now, and I really want to verify or show that this slide is false, how would our current projects measure up in LEED version 4? So what I did is I sat down and I said, okay, right here you're looking at the energy office space. Like, my office is like right over there. I promise it's real. There's a LEED plaque on the wall there now, so I should probably update that picture or whatever. LEED version 3, we got 67 points gold, and this is commercial interiors too. So I should highlight that this is commercial interiors and not new construction I'm talking about. Directly into LEED version 4, what I did here is I just said, okay, I'm going to take these points that we earned, and I'm just going to try and cram them into LEED version 4. Just thinking, like, can we do it? What would happen? And we lost about 15 points. It was actually a lot less than I thought it was going to be. And mainly the points we lost were the materials credits, because we would not have documented our materials correctly. They're asking for new and different ways, and we just didn't have that. We also lost a handful of energy points. But fortunately, Energy Ace, we are located in downtown Decatur, Georgia. If anyone here has ever been to Decatur, it's actually a pretty dense little community. We're right on a MARTA line. So we got all the community points, we got all the transportation points, and all of them transferred to LEED version 4 because of where we're located. So I estimated, I put my thinking cap on, and I said, okay, if we're going to do this project today, we're going to register it as a LEED version 4. We're going to use roughly the same budget, maybe in today's dollars. How do I think we could have performed? And being the firm that we are, our space is meant to be a showcase to sustainability, so people can come by and we'll show them the bamboo and the views and the glass and stuff like that. Sustainability is incredibly important to us. I think we could have gotten back to gold with actually 65 points. And again, really all those points are earned back from getting our materials back. You'll understand a little bit more what I'm talking about with the materials when we get further into the details. So, case study number 2 is the Darla Moore School of Business. This is one of my larger projects. I've been working on it basically for my entire time at Energy Ace. It is a 270,000 square foot brand new business school, University of South Carolina. This was a long time ago. They are going for platinum. They are actually shooting for between 83 and 87 points, and that is dependent upon renewable energy contracts, which will push it into like the high 90s for the number of points they're going for. So I did the same thing. I said, I got this project, I got this LEED version 4, how would we do? And I just crammed it in there, and we'd have a certified project. If we didn't change what we were doing, if we didn't adopt any new strategies, boom, certified. Terrible. I had a terrible nightmare about this. The estimated actual performance though, going back and saying, okay, they still really want to get platinum. I think we can really go for this. What could we do? I think we could get back to the high 70s, low 80s, around in there, and that is including the renewable energy. So like I said, it's 90 some odd points here with renewable energy. I think we could get back to platinum. big deficit in this project are the community density, the transportation credits. They've all changed. They're a little different than they were before, so we would lose all of that because this project is kind of on the edge of the, if you've got kind of downtown Columbia right here, the project is kind of right here and campus sprawls out this way. So it's right on the edge. It's just close enough for us to really get all those credits now, but in the new version, not so much. So this is supposed to make you feel a little bit better. Does anybody feel a little bit better? Nobody. Okay. So basically what I'm trying to communicate here in these two projects is that, the USGBC has this slide that they put out there that's like, this is how much harder it is, it's going to be ridiculous, it's going to be super hard. There is going to be a learning curve, I'm not going to lie about that. There's going to be some new paperwork to learn, new calculations to figure out, you have to think about different things when you start your project, but they're good things. These are things that you want to be doing. So if you really think about it, I think you can still get your projects to the same level that they were in the previous version of LEED. It might not be quite so high. If you're shooting for gold, like let's temper your expectations a little bit, shoot for certified and silver to get your project in there, but it can still be done. So this is supposed to make you feel a little bit better. Better buildings, better system of LEED, better website. I swear to God it's a better website for anyone who's used the LEED version 3 website. It's terrible. A pro tip for that website though is to use it in the morning. If you do have to use LEED Online, to use it in the morning because you will get on before the West Coast gets on. And that is the majority of LEED users are on the West Coast. So just remember that next time you have a lot of paperwork to do. Okay, any questions so far? Yes?
When do we have to start using LEED for?
That is a wonderful question. So the last date that you can register a LEED version 3 project is June 1st, 2015. That is the end-all date. From that day forward, you have to use LEED version 4. Up until then, you can go ahead and start using LEED version 4, but that is the date where everything has to be started. Also, if you have a LEED version 2.2 project that you're still working on, you have to have all your construction credits submitted by that date as well, otherwise they're shutting your project down. So that is the sunset date for LEED version 2.2, as well as the close date for LEED version 3.
So,
Yes.
did I understand correctly, if you take your office for example, now you looked at, could we do it again, could we do it? But if you want to maintain certification, you may not be able to do it because you do not have some of the documentation that you may not be able to get the retroactive different materials that you use. So can you actually do kind of a performance way of maintaining your certification?
So if you were, let me see if I got your question right. So you're asking sort of, if we had our certification now, we wanted to maintain it, like if we wanted to go and take our, like this project is done and closed out, this project is still going. Could we take this info and use it? Probably not. So a lot of the, you'd be able to use your energy information, stuff like that, all of that would still be good, clean data, but the materials data would be very outdated. The manufacturers, probably are not wanting to go back and look and find our carpet that we used from 3 years ago, so I guess it's 4 years ago now. So you probably wouldn't be able to do it, but a lot of that falls on the manufacturers. Okay?
So in a way that may be counterproductive because companies who just for prestige wants to maintain their certification,
Right.
they go out and remove and put new stuff in just to get the points again.
Right. The LEED doesn't necessarily, it doesn't expire. So you get your certification on your year, and it's basically in perpetuity. On your plaque has the year that you got certified on it. So you basically get it. So unless if you're going to go for the existing building operation and maintenance, you're kind of once you get it, you got it, you're done. But if you wanted to keep going, you have to replace stuff in your building. That is a counterintuitive sustainability tenet. I guess I can't think of the right word. Been in the car too long today. Sorry. Okay, so now we're going to get into the nitty-gritty. So we're going to talk about every single credit. We're going to go through and get in. So if you didn't have coffee, go get coffee, or if you want to go to sleep, just put your head down. Okay, sustainable sites. So what you're going to see here on the left LEED version 3. So you've got all old credits, and then over here on the right are the new credits. So sustainable sites, you're familiar with this kind of stuff here over here. We still have the same construction activity pollution prevention. They've just updated the standard from the EPA 2004 standard to the EPA 2012 standard. So just pumped it up, made sure that everyone's staying current. You should not have a problem doing this if you did not have a problem doing it before. Site assessment. So this is a totally brand new credit. If you are familiar with Ian McCarg and designing with nature and how that sort of stuff works, this credit is a no-brainer for you. Basically, you have to look at your site and you just have to assess all the different stuff that's on it. Do you have wetlands? Do you have good ingress and egress? Do you have protected habitat on it? Are there good soils? Are there bad soils? They want you to look at your site before you just slap a building on it. That, of course, does not necessarily apply to every site if you already have a building and you are, say, renovating it, but there's a way to get points for that. So, site development to protect and restore habitat. They want you to look more specifically at what type of habitat you're actually creating now. So if you're going to be putting in native and adapted species, what sort of animals are you going to be supporting within that habitat? So this right here is indicative of a lot of LEED credits. This sort of, before we were kind of going through the sustainability motions, now they want you to really think about it. You're going to have to document it. So why are you doing it and who are you doing it for? Also with this credit, you'll notice it is 2 points. But by earning this credit, you do not magically get 2 points. There is a 1 point threshold and a 2 point threshold. Every single credit in LEED version 4 acts that way now. So that'll be more prevalent on the next slide when I get to everybody's favorite credits. But open space, still functionally the same idea. Have open space on your site, LEED out code, be better than code so people can go and hang out and have picnics and stuff like that. Rainwater management. This is a big diversion from the old version of LEED. So if you've ever done the civil credits or these stormwater credits in LEED version 3, these guys down here, you know that there is LEED math. There is a LEED protocol for how you're supposed to do stormwater management. This is no longer the LEED protocol. They are referring you to the low impact development standards. You use those and then you calculate how much rainfall you are basically containing on your site, and then you compare yourself to everyone in your region or standard sites in your region, and you earn points based on your percentile. So if you're in the 95th percentile, you get all 3 points. That makes sense to anyone? Okay. That's all one person not.
How do you compare yourself to the whole region, whatever that is?
So I'll have to sit down and actually read the low impact development standards one of these days, but they have basically best management practices for your region, and it defines, kind of if you have X amount of grass, if you have X amount of hardscape, then we would expect your site to be in this 50th percentile, and then you can go better and worse from there based on how much rainwater you capture and clean.
So that's a preset average that they've already determined?
Yes, yes. Okay. Heat island effect, they took the 2 credits and put them together, so now it's one big happy calculation where you're looking at both your hardscape on your site and the hardscape on your roof to force you to think of it all as one big system. And then light pollution reduction, similar to rainwater management, this is no longer the LEED version of light pollution reduction. You can use dark sky standards, and there are a couple other standards that you can use now to do this light pollution reduction instead of using the LEED math with all the tradable and non-tradable surfaces, and you can only have so much light here, not enough light there. This credit drives the electrical engineers at Merrick absolutely crazy. And basically any electrical engineer I've ever met. Is there an electrical engineer in the audience? Okay. All right, well, anyway, so updated it. Everyone's excited about this one in our office. We're pretty psyched about it. Okay, any questions about sustainable sites? Yes?
Are these slides available on the website?
We can get them, James, I can send them to you. Yeah. And James will distribute them amongst you guys.
Thank you.
Okay, location and transportation. So this is a brand new category. Technically nothing existed over here before, but they actually did kind of play with some of the old stuff. So you'll notice this first credit here. If you've ever worked on a LEED CI project, you know that if you can find a building that has a previous LEED certification and you locate in that building as the CI, retail, or whatever, you get a certain amount of LEED points just for locating there. If you don't do it that way, then you have this list. There are 13 different paths that you can choose from to earn your sustainable sites credits for CI. That's what they're doing here. If you can find a LEED for neighborhood development project and locate there, you get all 16 points automatically. I know for a fact that there's at least one, and it is in North Carolina. So you can go, it's a platinum ND project. I don't know that there are any in Tennessee. There are not any, there are none NDs in Georgia. So it's pretty much no one will get to use this path.
I think there's one in Nashville.
Is there one in
I
Nashville?
think there is. I'm not 100% certain about that, but I believe there's one in Nashville.
So everybody go build there. That's what I'm saying. So what they're trying to get at here, where they really weren't terribly successful in LEED version 3, is again this early project planning. Some people, you know, if you're a university, you're not really going to have much of a choice when it comes to this. You know, your land is your land, and you probably don't have a lot of money to go buy new land, so you're kind of where you are. But if you're a private developer, or pretty much just private developers, then you can think about where you're going to build your building, and that's what they want people to do. They want you to go out there and think about where you're going to put your project. So that's what all these go into. Sensitive land protection is effectively the same as site selection over here. They don't want you building on farmland or floodplains or anything like that. If you can find just a previously developed site, you're good to go. They don't have any stipulations if you do that. High priority site is a little different. So this is your brownfield redevelopment combined with a couple other things. So they're looking at economic development areas. You know, they want you to put your project in somewhere that's beneficial to the city that you're within, so you can earn a couple points there. And then these two here. So these two are in my experience, this credit here and this development density and public transportation, everybody's favorite credits, because it's like if you're in the area, you get all those points. I'm gonna break everybody's heart, but it doesn't work that way anymore. So for these two credits, for surrounding density and diverse uses, you have to calculate the density of the area that you're in, and you have to calculate the number of community services that you have. As it gets higher, as your performance gets better, you get more points. So you start with 1, you go all the way up to 5. So this is a point that Energy Ace, because we're in downtown Decatur, we got all the points still, because we're in a very dense area. Well, it's not extremely dense. I mean, it's not much different than, it's less dense than downtown Knoxville. You know, I mean, it's a fairly dense area, but it's nothing ridiculous. And then the access to quality transit is the same thing. So it's not just the fact that you're within a certain distance of bus lines and train lines and regional buses, it's how many trips are there per day. So how many times can you get picked up? And are they planning on changing the system so you can get more rides per day? Things like that. So it's this sliding scale for performance. Bicycle facilities, a little bit different than it was before. So you have to have a certain number of bikes for people within your building. You have to have a certain number of showers for people within your building. But now they want you, and again, this is all about trying to locate your site somewhere that's beneficial to the project and the community. You have to be located on a bike network. So you have to be somewhere that has bike lanes, or you have to be somewhere that has slow roads. It's like 25 miles per hour or less. That counts as being a part of a bicycle network that connects out to some larger retail area. Reduced parking footprint. This is honestly the one LEED credit that, like, I understand the intent, but it leaves me scratching my head because you actually have to go below your minimum zoning standard. You have to do 20% less parking than your zoning standard, or do no new parking. So in order to get this, you do actually have to you'll have to get a variance for your parking in order to get it changed down a little bit. This is probably the most egregious of all the new LEED credits that I was like, I still can't believe they didn't change it, but I'm only one person. And then the last one, green vehicles. So it's no longer just enough to slap some signs and some paint on your site that say low emitting vehicles. They want you to have alternative fuel charging stations. So this sounds very, very scary, but you can work out deals with different power companies. Some people will just provide them because they're happy to make you pay for the power. So shop around and you can find some electrical charging stations. There might even be compressed natural gas people that will come out and put something on your site. So this, I feel like, outlines, is everyone sufficiently nervous now? Is that good? Okay, so this kind of outlines what I was saying, that it's like, it's no longer just going through the motions. You you're gonna have to pick up the phone and talk to people and see if you can get things done on your site, on your building, really actively moving toward a sustainability project. Any questions about location and transportation before I move on?
I did look for Dulce and Nashville's leading this.
It is. Excellent. So everybody go build in Nashville. That's the moral of that story. Okay, on to water efficiency. So they've added a few new prerequisites here. These are the first new prerequisites you're seeing. So outdoor water use reduction is now a requirement. You have to think about, if you're going to have a large amount of landscaping, really any landscaping, what plants are you using, what sort of irrigation system are you using. They want you to reduce your total amount of water outside. I think it's by 25% actually for this prerequisite. It could still be 50, but I'm not quite as fresh on this, so I apologize. I'm sorry. You can send me an email later. So outdoor water use reduction a requirement, indoor water use reduction still basically the same, but now they want you to look at some of your process equipment. So if you have washing machines and dishwashers and stuff like that, they want you to think about that as part of it. And they just have set standards. There's no sort of like baseline that it's like you have to have a % below on your process stuff. You just need to have new water efficient, water sense labeled kind of things in your building. And then building level water meter. So you have to have a water meter on your building in some way, shape, or form. So most projects, this is not a big problem. We have some federal clients though that might not be terribly interested in putting in water meters on their building because they just pay for one gigantic bill anyway. They don't really care what their individual buildings are using. So on campus projects, this might be a little bit of a hurdle, but it's not, outside of the realm of what people do every day on projects all across the country. Outdoor water use reduction. So basically what they did is they took this credit and they just split it into two. So now if you can do zero potable water use in your outdoor irrigation or have no irrigation at all, you'll get your additional points here. They added 2 points into indoor water use reduction. So they basically took this guy here, Innovative Wastewater Technologies, and combined it in. So there's no separate thing for your sewage system anymore. It's just all one big combined, and they just bumped up the threshold. So instead of 40% being the max, 50% is your max now. Cooling tower water reuse. If you use cooling towers on your project, awesome credit for you. If you do not have cooling towers on your project, maybe not quite such an awesome credit. This is another one of the credits that it's actually really good. Most of the projects that we work on where people do have cooling towers, they reuse the water in one form or another. It's very, very common. Actually, after we moved into our building in Decatur, they looked into it because we were just chit-chatting with them and it came up and they were like, oh yeah, we can do that. We can have that in, no problem. It's usually a no-brainer to do this kind of stuff. At least where we are, we got water. We're trying to steal y'all's water. I don't know if y'all knew that, but we got water problems in Georgia though. So it's not a problem for us. Y'all probably bathe in water and something like that. Anyway, water metering. So advanced water metering. If you're going to go through your building and then add in additional, if you're going to meter your lavatories or meter your flush fixtures, if you're going to meter your kitchens and stuff like that, you can get an additional point for that. Questions about water use reduction?
What's the intent on the water meter?
So the water metering, this is their emphasis on, if we go all the way back up here, they talked about increased emphasis on measurement and performance. So they want you to put it in there because they want you to have to look at it. So people who didn't used to put building level water metering in, they want you to have it now so you can understand, if you have a bunch of buildings on a campus loop or something like that, how much each building is using. So if there's a problem, you can identify it and reduce it.
Is there a measurement verification component to that later on?
No. So for the prerequisite, you just have to have it there. And then they still require the same energy and water data sharing as one of their minimum program requirements. So it should make it easier for some projects that didn't have building level metering before. But it's just that they want you to be able to look and see what's going on.
Make sure you can count to 12.
Yes. Okay, energy and atmosphere, not a lot of very large changes here. Fundamental commissioning is still fundamentally the same. It's still the same process where you have a third party come out. They didn't change the thresholds for who can do it or anything like that. So all in all, this is pretty much the same thing. Minimum energy performance, as I mentioned, way earlier, they went from ASHRAE 2007, or ASHRAE 90.1 2007 to ASHRAE 90.1 2010. So they've upped the system, but they've also bumped down the minimum. So your minimum there, instead of the 10%, is 6% or 5%. It's 5 or 6%. Sorry, I keep getting confused today. It's a long car ride, I guess. Building level energy metering is another new requirement. So similar to having your water metering, you have to have building level energy metering. Fundamental refrigerant management is really exactly the same. Don't use CFCs and stuff like that in your refrigerant system, or if you have them, please remove them. Enhanced commissioning is one of the larger changes. I got a caddy slide to help me out here. So in enhanced commissioning, they have added in, well, they didn't add in this, but if you are familiar with the old enhanced commissioning, it's still there and it's worth 2 points. So if you do a couple of design reviews, a warranty walkthrough, submittal reviews, just a few extra things, you can get 2 enhanced commissioning points. Then if you do monitoring commissioning, which is an additional for 5 years after the building is completed, they want the commissioning agent to come back on an annual basis and basically oversee new testing. So they want to make sure that your building is still balanced, still working the way that it was supposed to work the first time. So that's 2 more points. And then envelope commissioning. This is where they come out and look and make sure that your windows are sealed correctly, that the roof went on correctly. We have a guy in our office that started doing envelope commissioning. He had a few large projects this year, and it was shocking, the stuff. It's pretty incredible. One of them went really well. One of them did not go so well. Like literally, like roofs that didn't line up with the edge of the wall and things. It's pretty incredible what they let go sometimes. Advanced energy metering. If you're gonna meter separately your plug load, separately your lighting load, your process load, different things like that, you'll get your advanced energy metering here. And they don't have the M&V plan like they used to. They took that out of there. So it's just having the metering in and then having some sort of plan. So not like the IPMVP plan and all that stuff that there was before. So they want you to have it there. The next one, demand response. I'm not sure about the utilities around here. In Georgia, we do not have demand response right now. So we can only get 1 point. So if you build your building ready for demand response, you can get 1 point. If demand response is available through your utility company, you can get an additional point. Is there anyone here that would like me to describe what demand response actually is for anyone who doesn't know? Yes? Yes? Okay. So basically demand response is you set up your building in a way that the utility company can actually control various systems within your building, and then during peak times they'll power it down and they'll pay you for it. So when they're having their maximum load in the middle of the summer, they might say power down. If you do it in a residential case, they might power down your air conditioning in the middle of the summer. They're just going to turn your compressor off. The fans will keep running, but they're going to turn off the big energy usage from their plant in the middle of wherever it is. So that saves them from having to deal with their peak. So it saves them money, and they actually give you a credit back. So in a commercial setting, depending on how much they use and how much they power down in your building, they give you a certain amount of money back. They have it residentially in Georgia, but not commercially. So I'm not exactly sure. Does anyone know here in Tennessee if y'all have demand response? Anyone? I see someone nodding back there. Is that?
Yeah, Knox County Schools is on it, and they get $100,000 or something back every year.
Yeah, so it can make really good money sense if you're willing, if you have a usage that allows certain things in your building to be powered down in the middle of the day. So some cases, maybe not so much, but in some cases, yes, it could be just fine. So demand response, renewable energy production, same things before, have PVs on your building, have solar hot water, have some sort of on-site renewable wind energy, something like that. Enhanced refrigerant management, effectively the same thing as it was before. And then carbon power, or green power and carbon offsets. What they've done here is they've just upped the standard. So where you could go out before and just kind of buy any old green power rack. It couldn't be, it had to be green E certified or whatever. Now it's even more stringent. So you have to make sure that the power comes from US sources, and it has to, the RECs come from US source power, and the power has to be from 2005 or later. So basically here, all it's doing, it's not changing how you procure this credit or these RECs, it's just changing the cost. So they're gonna be a little more expensive than they were. You go and put your recyclables and someone will pick it up. They're asking people to do a little more, so look into things like electronics recycling if you can do it, but you don't have to do it. The other prerequisite here that they have sort of added, but most people did, at least in our general consultant range or client range, is construction and demolition waste management plan. And notice the plan here, there's a focus on this one word. So you don't have to actually report how well you did in your construction and waste management. You just have to have the plan. So you've got to have your waste streams identified, how much you think you can recycle, who's going to do your recycling, your waste hauling. This is all just a part of your plan. You just have to have that there. You just have to set some goals. And then their last credit here is the same as this credit here. If you get to 50% diversion of your waste from the landfill, 1 point, 75% diversion from the landfill, 2 points. So they just kind of make you have to have the plan. So not a huge problem for me. Anyway. Okay, got another caddy slide here. So building life cycle impact reduction, 5 points. So they put a whole bunch of points in here. So this guy here, you can actually get points now for locating in a historic building. If you can find an abandoned or a blighted building, additional points. Building and material reuse. So if you're familiar with the old salvaged materials credit where you find, old doors from an old building or something like that from a new building, stick it in your building like windows or something. Salvaged materials, a couple of points. And then a whole building life cycle assessment. And what whole means is your building envelope and roof structure. So basically the outside of your building. I want you to look at the actual life cycle of all that stuff before you select it. So all of these go in to make this one credit here. So, good credit. I'm a fan of that credit. It's a good one. Okay, environmental product declarations. Who here has heard of an environmental product declaration? Nobody has. Okay, so an environmental product declaration is sort of like a souped up cut sheet. It has everything about that product that went into, this table, for instance. It has everything about it. Where it came from, where the raw materials came from, how much embodied energy there is. There's a life cycle assessment included. Are there any chemicals included in it? All of this stuff. That's an environmental product declaration. To earn this credit, you have to have environmental product declarations for 20 different products in your building from 5 or more manufacturers. So the issue with this is not that you have to have certain types of performing material. You just got to find manufacturers that do this. To my knowledge, there are 5 companies in Georgia that do it. One of them is like Interface. They're the flooring guys that are on the head of sustainability. So they're ready for it. The parallel that I'll draw for you here is back when, in the mid-2000s, we started doing LEED, and everyone said, hey, I need to have these regional and recycled contracts, or regional and recycled products and materials in my building, and all the suppliers and manufacturers basically said, what? So nobody knew how to do it, they couldn't get the information, suppliers didn't want to get it, it was suppliers getting it from suppliers, getting it from somewhere in South America, no one knew what they were doing. But then everyone started to catch up. They figured it out, and now you look at almost any cut sheet, and it's on there. Something's on there about at least how much recycled content there is. The regional stuff is still a little tricky, but it's getting better. So no one knew how to do that. I mean, people knew how to do it. I'm not trying to call people stupid, I'm sorry. The manufacturers just really didn't want to do it. But now this is here. There are manufacturers that are tooling up. They are ready to do it, and they're able to do it. And I think that if LEED continues to go in even a similar fashion as it was before, it's good business sense to do it. So I think you're going to start seeing manufacturers offer this sort of stuff, at least for large products. Sourcing of raw materials. This is very similar to regional materials before, but now they're looking very specifically at the raw materials that go into your product, and they have shrunk your radius. So these are hyper-local products that they're looking for. Your radius is 100 miles instead of 500 miles now. So it's very, very tight, or you have to be able to show basically every last little thing that's within that product. So this is a tricky one, like I said before, because a lot of manufacturers that, build, I don't know, think of like carpet or something like that, they might get stuff from their supplier, and their supplier might just say, I get it from that guy, and that guy doesn't even know where he gets it from. So this just getting the communication going is going to be tricky here. Material ingredients, this is less difficult communication-wise, but it means the companies have to start being honest with everyone. They're asking for no red list items. There's a chemical red list out there. It's stuff that you're not supposed to put in your body or even stand next to. It's terrible things for your body. I'm actually not sure if it's on this list, and if you really like Kraft mac and cheese, like put your fingers in your ears here. So like yellow 6 is a coal derivative. It comes from coal. They put it in Kraft mac and cheese. So like if you get Kraft in Europe, it doesn't have yellow number 6 in it. It's stuff kind of like that. So yellow number 6 isn't super dangerous, but it's just products that are kind of unnatural. So these chemicals go into all sorts of products within a building. The really big example is something like PCBs. A long time ago, nobody knew it was bad for you, but now we know they're really, really bad for you. So PCBs are kind of universally banned. So in this one, similar to the other credits, sorry, I'm hitting on like a, materials and ingredients. So similar to the other ones, you have to have a certain number of products in your building. You have to make sure that they meet all the requirements within this credit. And then that's the materials and resources. Any questions? No? Okay. All right. Last big category, indoor environmental quality. This is a pretty quick and easy one, so y'all can start. I got 10 minutes left. Okay. All right. Minimum IAQ performance. They've gone from ASHRAE 62.1 2007 to ASHRAE 62.1 2010. So they've just upped the amount of air and everything that you have. Those of you who are intimately or have intimate knowledge of this credit know that currently you can only use the ventilation rate procedure for your project. You have to deliver a certain amount of outdoor air based on your spaces within the building. They are looking into, and it is available for you to use the IAQ method to do your spaces now. So it's out there, no one's really done it. We've actually managed to sneak a few projects in version 3 using the IAQ method, but I would not suggest it because it leads to like hard competition. So environmental tobacco smoke control, don't smoke in your building, easy enough. Enhanced IAQ strategies, so they took a few credits over here, so your outdoor air delivery monitoring, increased ventilation, and some of the stuff in indoor and chemical pollutant source control, and put it in here. So they just kind of rearrange things. Low emitting interiors, they have a list of different products or product groups that you can look at, so paints and coatings, adhesives and sealants, floorings and stuff like that. You have to meet the low VOC standards. They just grouped it together, so it's 3 points down instead of 4. Construction IAQ management plans, following the SMACRA rules, have a tidy and clean site, cover all your absorptive materials and cover, duct work and everything while you're putting it in. IAQ assessment, so this is actually looking into your building. You have to do a combo now, so you have to do a portion flush out and a portion IAQ testing. We have actually seen in recent years, or actually really just this year, a lot of our clients are doing IAQ testing now where people really wouldn't do it before. And the main reason that is because the low VOC products and all the products in general have gotten so much better. The VOC content has gotten so much lower, people barely even have to do any sort of building flush out before they pass the test. 3 or 4 years ago, IAQ testing, people would have to go through it 3-4 times before they were able to get a pass. We've had 2 projects in the last 3 months that passed on the first shot. So something like IAQ assessment, maybe not such a bad idea anymore. Thermal comfort, really kind of the same idea as before. If there's a room like this, we should be able to control how hot it is. You have to have controls for a certain number of people in your spaces. Indoor lighting, same thing, have controls for different people in your spaces. But now they want you to actually kind of justify your design a little bit more. So part of this credit is showing that you thought about what type of spaces you have beyond just what the code compliance is and thinking about what people are doing in that space and and matching your lighting and your lighting controls to what they're doing. Next one, daylight. So they've given you 3 points to work with here for daylight. Daylight now has to be done in one of two ways. You have to do either a daylight simulation or you have to verify with light readings after the project is done. So there's no more the prescriptive method where it's how big is the window, how much floor area do you have, what's the visibility of the glass. Now you just do a model or readings. And then depending on how much daylight you have for a certain number of spaces in your building, threshold points. Quality views, this is like the joke credit that I find kind of funny now. So before, just looking out a window is good enough, so I've got a view here. Actually, this space has fairly good views, even though the window is fairly small. Everyone can see out the window here from the seated position, so the space would mostly qualify. And actually, it would still qualify. Now you can't just be able to look out a window, you've got to be able to see like cool stuff out of the window. So you have to be able to see. And I mean, this one actually qualifies pretty well. So we've got greenery outside, I just saw someone walk by. So these are their requirements. You have to be able to see movement, green space. I don't think the sky counts actually. They mainly just don't want you to have a building next to a building. So mostly where we work, that's usually not a terribly big problem. But you have to have quality views now on top of regular views. And then they added in acoustic performance, which I'm a big fan of. You just have to have an acoustic engineer of some sort help you out with your project, or if you're an acoustical genius yourself, you can just fill out the credit and do it correctly, just to make sure that you kind of go above and beyond. So spaces like this might be a little less boomy, or basically just matching the acoustical needs to the space. All right, any questions about indoor environmental quality? Okay. Innovation and regional priority, all in all, the same idea, same everything. The big difference though, at the beginning when I was asking who's which and what, so now for the LEED accredited and professional credit, you have to have the specialization in the area that your project is. So if you're working on a new construction project, to get this credit, you have to be LEED AP, BD, and C. If you're working on a commercial interiors retail project, ID and C. If you're working on, EVOM, you get the idea. So to rope you into the education, I got you. Regional priority, exactly the same thing as it was before. And then the very last thing is integrated design. The two things to know here is you have to get started early. This is not one of those things that you can go back and say like, oh yeah, we had all these meetings, we got the meeting minutes, it's cool, we got it. You have to do a schematic phase, energy and water model, where you actually look at your building and you kind of guess at what you think the energy and water usage is going to be and help that. You use that to help inform your design as you move forward. So you really have to proactively do integrated design in order to get this credit. Okay. That's pretty much all I got. If y'all enjoyed any part of today's presentation, Energy Ace, we are happy. We like to feed architects and engineers and really anyone that will have us in their office. So we do all sorts of other educational things. If you would like to have me come back, if you enjoyed my speaking voice, or maybe someone that's a little less boomy or jittery from the drive or something like that, we can send someone else too. So just ask, and we've got all sorts of stuff. We're happy to come by. We're happy to buy lunch too. And then I'll be happy to take any questions.
Well, before we take questions, we have certificates in the back. We printed out 30 of them. We have 33 people here today. So if you want an like electronic certificate, please let me know and I'll email it to you. Otherwise, please get your certificate as you leave the room today. That's all I have. Well, thank you.
Okay.
Would you just review the timing of the when that's implemented, when the LEED 4 is implemented? Say
Yes.
You said that start.
So you can do a LEED version 4 project now if you want. It's not a pilot, it's not beta or anything. It's full-blown LEED version 4. You have to start doing it. The last date that you can register a LEED version 3 project is June 1st, 2015. So a year from June 1st. So register all your projects in May.
I have a question. One of the hot topics in our company is we've got a lot of candidates pursuing LEED accreditation.
Right.
And so right now, there's the big question, do they try to pursue it under the current guidelines, or do they wait till June once the testing is, LEED V4 is implemented in the testing process? What is, I know there's probably no great answer, but what are you hearing in terms of the test? You know, they're making certification more difficult. Do you foresee them making the accreditation process more difficult as well?
I think overall the test will be the same level of difficulty, but the material is going to be completely new to everybody. So, you know, normal test reference materials, study guides and stuff like that, there's going to be a lag time from when that test really starts coming out to when you can get good study materials for it. So I would say if you're relatively studied up and you can get registered to take the test before June, I would say go ahead and do it because, you know, everyone is much more familiar with LEED version 3 than version 4. So it'll be a little bit harder to prep for, but I think overall the difficulty of the exam is not supposed to change. You know, the level of technical knowledge required and stuff like that is not supposed to change. Nobody else?